So.
Monsieur Min.
Yes.
Mrs. Bubu. Do you like Mrs. Bubu or Mrs. Future?
I don't know. Either one.
Mrs. Future makes like logical sense because I go by General Future and we're Bubu Future. Future is like the last name.
Right.
But I also like the Bubu part of our name,
Yeah.
Bubu Future. So calling you Mrs. Bubu, I think
that works.
I think that's my title. One of my titles for you is going to be Mrs. Bubu from now on. So good morning.
Good morning.
Yesterday was your birthday.
Yes, it was.
And we spent the entire day just having tons of fun. And
yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit, like, what was your favorite part of yesterday?
I think my favorite part of yesterday just overall was, I can't describe it, but it just didn't feel, nothing felt forced. It just felt like just the best day ever. I don't know. Like it was such a chill day. Like we had our thing in the morning, just like our normal morning routine. And then my mom came over with all that food and then we had lunch, spent some time and then hung out and then we went out for a couple of cocktails. Yeah, a cocktail and then Culver's and then in bed by 10.
Wow,
like sounds like a pretty
that was like
day.
that was like the whole play-by-play.
Yeah.
But it was a great birthday. I feel like it could not have come at a better time.
Yeah.
Like as though like it matters, but I don't know. It just seems very. It just makes sense that you are, another quote unquote another year older now. Like I feel like a lot of the changes that we've been going through and just a lot of the personal growth and just the way that we feel about ourselves. And especially for you, I feel like that's been like really tuned up as of late. And I feel like this birthday is kind of like a marker for like, okay, this is like a new chapter.
Right.
And I'm glad that we got this like birthday viewers here today, yesterday to like indicate that next chapter.
Yeah. I think for myself, birthdays, I guess with any events, birthdays, whether it be like a trip or someone else's birthday or an event or wedding, I feel like either the lead up or the after is more exciting for me than the actual, like when you act, like, when you're waiting for, I don't know, say Christmas. Like I actually don't like the actual day of Christmas. But I like all the lead up to it, and then all the, I guess,
the cleanup.
I guess for birthday wise, like yesterday didn't really feel like
a birthday.
It never. It's weird. I feel like. Does that make sense?
I know what you mean. And
yeah,
I think
it's not supposed to feel like anything really.
Right. There is no specific.
It's just another
feeling.
day. Yeah.
There is no specific feeling. Any feeling that you are in your mind, like, kind of expecting to have or that you think you should have is completely made up. There's no standard like birthday feeling, although that would be cool. Like what if they made like a special, what if roller coasters were like something you could only get on if it was your birthday? Or like, I don't know, like make birthdays really special.
You can only eat cake on your birthday.
Damn. I mean, that's the way it used to be.
I know.
But now we just eat cakes all the time. Now you can go to Walmart and buy a cake for $5. It's different. But I really feel like cakes and like maybe birthdays used to be a lot more special as far as the way they're celebrated.
Right.
Or maybe they weren't. Like I can totally imagine periods of time like in the dark ages when like the concept of a birthday didn't even exist. Like people like weren't aware of like the annual cycles that happen.
Yeah.
And so like it wasn't like every year was its own separate year. Like life was just one long just like drag without broken up. And they're just like, wow, I'm just getting older. I'm older. It's never, I'm another year older. Like there's no specific level of how old you are.
You just survived another year.
Yeah, just grinding.
I feel like that's like more reason to celebrate, but.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why they invented birthday parties and birthday cake.
Yeah, I wonder, yeah.
We had a birthday cake yesterday. Not a traditional birthday cake.
Yes, but it was delicious.
You're totally right though you called me out on it, and you're correct in that it was a last minute thing. It was, I felt like I wanted to do something more, like something additional, and I was like,
that's fine.
I've never made a cake, but I'll make a cake. And so I was at the store and bought those things, and so for the record, I made a coconut cake with vanilla pudding and a coconut pecan frosting. And who eats a coconut cake for their birthday?
Well, I like coconut cake. It was the frosting part.
The brown frosting, the yellow and brown frosting with the nuts in it.
Yeah.
That was disappointing.
No, it tasted good. It's just not my first choice I would reach to, like a nut.
Especially for like a birthday cake.
Yeah.
If this was like a cake for like a cakewalk.
Oh man.
Like a
Even
cakewalk
then,
for
I don't
school.
know.
It wouldn't sell well.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like nuts should not belong on cakes. I may be wrong though. I just don't. I do like enjoy nuts, but I don't know on desserts.
I'll put that into my mind.
Yeah.
Which it confuses me because you love the turtle sundae.
I know.
And that has pecans in it.
Right. I just like tolerate nuts. Like
You're tolerant.
Like I feel like raisins and nuts should not be. I mean, walnuts are very delicious in chocolate chip cookies, but they're not necessary. Like raisins and nuts shouldn't be in. Well, I take that back. There are actually a lot of desserts that have
raisins and nuts.
Yeah, or like nuts. Yeah. So never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Maybe it's just a birthday cake.
Just for the birthday cake.
Or cake, just cakes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like what you made me yesterday was very close to like a German. Is it called a German chocolate cake where they have like same frosting on the outside?
That frosting is. You're right. I think it is specifically like for frosting. Now that I think about it.
But it tasted better than it looked.
I knew that was going to be the case.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be delicious.
Yeah.
The flavor profiles in my mind, the calculations as I was picking them out, it just worked.
You do. I have to give you credit for that. You do make some crazy but delicious
flavor combos.
Yes.
I mean,
especially when we hit up like bubble tea once in a while. Some of your flavor combinations are wild, but they work.
I'm like a Picasso of junk food flavor. But I have to admit, I have run into like my fair share of just abominations of flavor combinations.
Trial and error, I guess.
Yeah, trial and error, exactly. But yeah, we had such a great day yesterday. Thank you for being born. Thank you for, I know I already said this in the Instagram post, as though that's like the standard for how all birthday wish communications are.
That's so funny.
But thank you for being my partner through this. It's fun.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah. So I don't know how long we've been recording, but what's your first podcast experience like? I know you were a little bit nervous about that. Hey guys, this episode of the podcast is sponsored by Bubu Future. Bubu Future is the brand that my wife Sierra and I are running. We sell clothes on Depop, Poshmark, eBay, and we're in the process of opening up our own online store at bubufuture.com. Go ahead and check out the website. We do have a blog up there. It's got a few blog posts on there, but there's a link to the store, and you can sign up and leave your email address to be notified when the store goes live. But it'll just be the same great quality clothing that we're currently selling on our marketplaces, but in a more curated, controlled fashion that'll be better for you guys and for us. So thanks for listening to the podcast, and please check out bubufuture.com. Enjoy.
Aww,
it may be surprising for you because you don't spend time listening to it back yourself.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
But, I'm...
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Okay.
So don't worry.
If it's good enough for you, it's good enough for me.
So one thing that I've wanted to try is, like, on these podcasts or, like, when I'm creating content, is reading a chapter from the Tao Te Ching and talking about it. Okay. And I think having you here to talk about it, where we can both weigh in on what we think the chapter says, might be good. So
Okay.
let's go ahead and do that. So this is the Tao Te Ching. This is the version by the interpretation by Stephen Mitchell, and I'll leave the link for it in the description below. The Tao Te Ching, I guess the most like basic way to think about it is like the Chinese Bible, which is totally inaccurate, right? And so the Tao Te Ching was written by this guy named Lao Tzu, and I guess like he wrote this book, and the story goes like he was a teacher in this country, in this like small like inland nation in China. And one day he was leaving to go somewhere else. And somebody ran up to him and was like, teacher, before you go, can you please leave us something, you know, your lessons in a written format so that we can continue to learn as you're gone. And that's why he wrote this book. But the Tao Te Ching is a collection of like poems or little writings that kind of describe you know, what it is. What it is, yo. So we're going to read you a chapter and we're going to talk about it. Flipping randomly. Left or right?
Left.
Chapter 16. Empty your mind of all thoughts. Let your heart be at peace. Watch the turmoil of beings, but contemplate their return. Each separate being in the universe returns to the common source. Returning to the source is serenity. If you don't realize the source, you stumble in confusion and sorrow. When you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind-hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king, immersed in the wonder of the Tao. You can deal with whatever life brings you, and when death comes, you are ready. Holy shit, that was a heavy one.
Oh my God.
I feel that's a heavy one. I feel like that is like, that like lays out the entirety of like what Taoism is about and like all the benefits that come along with just like getting in touch. But like, you want to take a look at it and give us your thoughts? I don't know. Hi, Margot.
I like the part of when you realize where you come from, you naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind-hearted as a grandmother, dignified as a king. The part of like tolerant, disinterested, and amused, I feel like that's talking about all like the stupid, silly drama that humans tend to get caught up in. And when you like know the source, you just like, huh, whatever. You know, all that kind of stuff seems like child's play.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, what do you think when it says source? Like, like what does that mean to you?
That's
like,
how I wanted
like
to talk through.
Yeah. So they refer to the source, like when you realize where you come from, the source, and it's also book. So that's what the one side, the beginning. The end of the story is when you return to the source, and the fact of the matter is like we're bookended by the source. That's where we come from, and that's where we go. Like, what is that? Anything add to that? Like, what's your interpretation of like source?
I mean, it's like kind of like with the stuff that we talked about, like what do we call it? It's just it, like it, no, like it.
Yeah.
When you know what is it that we always say? Like, I don't know.
Let me take a look and
like you just know the. What is it that we always say? Like it, like you know it, like.
When you realize when you come from, You naturally become tolerant, disinterested, amused, kind-hearted as a grandmother. And I feel like, like you said, like it's separating yourself from all the drama that goes on, because
it's like a...
The drama is temporary.
Yeah, it's temporary, and it's also kind of like a waste of time, energy.
What would be a better use of time, do you think? If getting caught up in the drama is a waste?
Not getting caught up in the drama.
I think for a lot of people, it's impossible. They're like, how can I possibly separate myself from the drama of being a person?
It's interesting. No, but I think that kind of stuff is because it feels good, right?
Mm-hmm. It feels.
Yeah, it feels. And I'm not sure if it's good, but it's like, maybe not good, but it's a feel that it's
a feeling.
It's, you know, it could become a bad habit, but then the thing with habits is like you're so comfortable with it that it can almost become a default at times. So even when you're not even upset or angry or annoyed, it's just like a natural feeling that you know. And when you want to feel something, you just sometimes people just revert to just that. You know, I've been in that place too. It's so easy.
Absolutely.
It's so easy, but then it doesn't end up feeling good at the end of the day.
I think for me,
and I feel like that's what makes you more upset.
It's kind of like there's a page in Ram Dass's Be Here Now, this book, if you guys haven't checked it out. There's a phrase in here where it says, painted cakes do not satisfy.
Painted cakes do not satisfy.
So like the interpretation there is like you need actual food. You can't just look at drawings of food.
Right.
Like painted cakes, as beautiful as they are and as appetizing as they may look, they will not satisfy the hunger that you have. And I think that kind of is related to the drama that people get caught up in. They think that the drama is the thing that's giving them life and like source and a
because
mission.
it's making them feel a ways.
Yeah.
And they're confusing that with,
Right, and I think the realization, you know, when you are able to empty your mind of all thoughts and let your heart be at peace, there isn't anything you have to do. Like, think about it this way. Alan Watts, one time, he was a big teacher of the Tao, and he talked about how there are so many things that we are concerned about and trying to control or manipulate or have work out in the way that we want it. But if you think about it, the very things that make us alive, that keep us here, are things that are happening just automatically. I can't control my heartbeat. I can't control the blood running through my veins. I can't control my hair growing, my nails growing. Like, this is all stuff that is happening, like, of me. Like, I'm doing this to myself, like my body's doing this, but I have no control over it. It's just happening. And I don't know, I think there's for me with Taoism, there's a larger, like being at peace is just knowing that there isn't anything specific that you have to do in order to keep this going. We get so wrapped up in playing these roles, like Eric, when he was talking, like Eric's point of view of, you know, that there's this constant tension in the world and it's everyone's responsibility to do their part to, you know, make sure the tension is taut and pull all the slack out. I don't know if that's necessarily true. That's not my opinion of things. I think the world is just going. The world is the world. And I think the idea that there's a specific responsibility, a duty that we all must fulfill, I think it's misplaced.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure. People.
Like, what's your take on the word duty? Do you feel duty to do anything? Like, is that something that is in the back of your mind when you're trying to decide what it is that you need to do?
Not as much these days.
No.
I don't know if I ever really... Yeah, you have things that... family or stuff like that, but I don't think it's ever like ruled my life. Because that's like really not sustainable.
I feel like...
You have to burst at one point and, it's...
I feel like it is a very like old school way of thinking.
Yeah.
And I can see where and why people may have thought that way. It's also a great way to control.
Yeah. I feel like the sense of duty, is that something people put on themselves, or they're being... I mean, it could be either of those things, right? Because sometimes I feel like the stuff, that duty that I've had... Or I guess the only duty I've been ever told is, from a young age, is to like take care of my brother. I guess my parents are kind of different from the average Korean parents, okay? Like many, Korean parents that immigrated, like, are just like from that generation, like born in, the mid-late 50s up until now. They've never really had a choice to do whatever. They just had to survive, right? So I feel like because of that mindset, my parents weren't like, you have to excel in school and like hit these marks and have this career. They were kind of like the opposite. They're like, we don't really, have the background to tell you what to do in a way. Just do what you want. And there's like pros and cons of that, but I turned out okay.
Yeah.
So decent, but yeah, in terms of duty, I don't think I think there might have been a time where I maybe put that sense of duty onto myself, and then maybe there was conflict because of your expectations. Like, I did this, why isn't nobody recognizing that? And then that disconnect is created because of that sense of duty that, like, my parents weren't ever telling me anything. Maybe I was putting that on myself. And then getting upset by myself if I felt like it wasn't like either reciprocated or like acknowledged, I guess.
Like, you're like, I have this sense of duty to do the X, Y, and Z. Why isn't anybody else following that?
And like, that is,
like, why do I feel this sense of duty when nobody else does?
Right, and that can get kind of not good too.
Yeah, it can become a point of conflict for sure.
And so I feel like,
I don't know. Hindsight, looking back on history is always interesting because that's just the way we work as far as we create these stories that we tell ourselves to make sense of where we're at now. Like, I feel like that's a lot of what history is, okay, we're here now in the present moment. Like, how did we get here? And in answering that question, you will hear a bunch of different stories depending on the perspective of whoever it is that's telling you how we got here, right? And for a long time back in the day, especially before like internationalization and globalization has reached a point that it has now, people were a lot more localized to the cultures that they were born into and that they were going to die into. Right. And I think in small, like more tightly controlled populations, coming up with specific duties for the betterment of the group. Right. Like, that makes sense to me. Yeah. I think, I don't know, like, the bigger the focus gets, the more nebulous and difficult to say, like, what your duty is when it pertains to this particular sphere of influences. It gets difficult to define specifically. Right. And the fact of the matter is that relationship that every person has with, no matter, depending on where you're at, the ever-growing rings of, like, influence or circles of society that we may be interacting with is different. I don't know if there's any way, I don't know, like, going back to duty, I don't think it's feasible or realistic to expect people to automatically know what the duties are.
Right.
It really has to come like,
right.
It really has to come naturally from, again, it's hard for me to say this as an adult, because as an adult, I know all these things that you're quote unquote supposed to do.
Do you think there's a difference between, I forgot what I was going to ask, like,
it's okay.
Yeah. Is there a difference between duty and just being a good person?
I think there is a difference.
Yeah.
I think there is a nuance there.
Yeah.
And I think that nuance comes, and then this is where we're bumping up against like the limitations of duty.
Right.
You can't define duty as a hard line, like this is it, because everything is always changing.
Right.
And I feel like there's a spirit of the law underneath whatever duty is stated. Like a duty has to be specific.
Yeah.
To whatever is trying to get done. But you have to understand the reason why behind the duty exists in order to make sure that the duty is going to get carried forward no matter what changes. You know what I mean?
It's tricky.
It's kind of like keeping your eyes on the prize.
Right.
But, you know, by keeping your eyes on the prize, you have to, like, what that enables you to do is just like, regardless of what comes in your way, you can get around it, underneath it, through it, but you're going to get to the point. And I feel like that is the more important part of duty. And that kind of goes back more to what the Tao was talking about. Like, you have to have a bigger sense of, like, a big picture sense of what's good, quote unquote. And I think that is the thing that has to be guiding you.
Right. Because I feel like a lot of the stuff, the conversations on the internet these days with our current climate, political climate, and just stuff that's going on in our society these days, people are really going after people that aren't like anti this person or anti that thing or whatever. And they're like, you are, you know, you are a known person, you're a celebrity, like you have a lot of followers, how dare you not comment? It's your job, like it's to comment on whatever's going on. And I've seen a lot of people get flack for that. And I just think, what?
Yeah. Politics is so tough.
Yeah, well, just like, politics or any like cultural world event even. And they'd be like, this person, you didn't comment on it. I don't know. I think the perverted part about duty and like doing the right thing is that people just can't do the right thing. Like just do it, like whatever. It has to be like, it always has to be this big thing. Not always, but like a lot of times it is. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Keep going.
But I never know where my train of thought is going.
No, I mean, I think that's...
But
I think, okay, can I say what I think it is that you're trying to say?
Yeah.
I think you're trying to point out the problem with duty when, kind of like what you were saying, like the sense of duty that you felt was always very internally located. But a lot of what we see these days is people like pointing fingers at other people saying, you're not doing your duty.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if that's ever, like what good.
That's so, yeah.
Who's anyone to say that they're not fulfilling their duty as a person being, as a human being?
Yeah. As if duty is defined.
Right.
Like
I was saying, like it's impossible to define duty at any level unless, you know, you get down to the real nitty gritty of like a specific situation. But even then, you know, I feel like it's always up to that individual.
It's hard.
It is hard.
It's really tricky.
How do you go
so
through
much,
like, I feel like a big part of my operating system, like the values that I try to live by and my rules for myself is I am trying to very hard to, I don't believe that there is a should or a way that people are supposed to behave. Because again, I'm not trying to dictate anything for anyone. And the only thing that I really hold for myself in terms of like a rule is like in any given moment, like, is what I am doing, aligned to my deeper belief, my big belief that, everyone is one, we're all united, and have like, is what I'm doing helping move things towards like the unity consciousness, and, helping us realize that we're all actually one and not separate. I think for me, that's like my guiding principle. And then my sense of duty for myself comes from that. And I think that's what chapter was it? 16 we're talking about here. Like that's kind of what it's getting at in terms of each separate being in the universe returns to the common source, returning to the source of serenity. And then, I don't know, I just keep coming back to that. Like, like my hypothesis is that the more people are aware of this, the more just like peaceful the world will be, because everybody will just be acting more peaceful as a result. I'm not looking for world peace. I'm not looking for the rest of the world to make peace with other parts of the world. I'm just looking for every individual piece to make peace with themselves.
Exactly. That's powerful.
Dang.
It sounds like it would be so simple.
Right.
But, and it can be.
It can be.
But there's just so many things distracting, and
there's so many
playing with our emotions.
There's so many external promises of people in positions of power saying that they will be able to deliver this.
Yes, and no, the only person that can deliver that is yourself.
Absolutely.
Like truly, and it's when people find that, like, find the power and just know that they're enough. That's why I love G-Dragon's song so much. The power, his power song that he came out with. Because
the power,
yeah,
the power. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to say, as someone that is currently going through this path of like
stepping
reclaiming my
power,
it's it's not something that just happens in a minute and you're just like, I have the power. It's literally a journey. And I think the journey is what makes it what it is. It's not like one day you're on like a throne and you're like, I have the power, and you get ascended into heaven. It's we're here to enjoy our lives. We're here because life is beautiful, right? But we forget that because there's like people dying, people starving, people homeless. There's wars going on. It's just so much turmoil. But I don't know. Even with all that going on, like life is still worth living, and it's worth being on your. Just making the best of it, And so that's why, I'm just really trying not to focus on, I don't know.
That's a big part of it, because don't get me wrong, like all the pain and suffering that is out there, like it does, like it makes me sad, it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
But I don't think the answer isn't in going out and enforcing behavior on anyone else.
No, yeah.
Like my mission, and I'm going to expand it to include you. Like our mission, I'm going to say it right now, is just to be examples of love and to show love and to share love and to help spread the thinking through that way. And hope, like that's the way that we're going to change the world.
Yeah, right. We're going to enable people to.
We're going to enable people. It's not about going out and stopping people from doing what they're doing, because what they're doing is wrong.
Right. Or
I'm allowed to have that opinion, and that someone's doing a wrong thing. But at the end of the day, that's just my opinion. Right. They're doing what they think they need to do.
Right.
And maybe it's coming from a misplaced sense of duty. But I don't know. We're spreading the word. You don't owe duty to anyone but yourself to be the best version of yourself that you can be, because we come from the source, we return to the source. There's nothing to fear. Returning to the source is serenity, dudes.
Yeah.
There's nothing but peace at the end of this. There's nothing to be afraid of. Christianity is messed up because they say that they're giving you peace, but it's delivered through an ultimatum where you have to live this way. Otherwise, at the end of the day, when you die, you're either going to hell or you're going to go to heaven. Like, that ultimatum being placed after you die is incredibly messed up because it steals
That's crazy.
It steals agency from people when they're alive, and it beholds them to a set of duties and things that are manipulatable by anyone else that's considered higher in the hierarchy of the religion that you follow. Everyone, please, I urge you to just learn to love yourselves, and the rest of the world can take care of itself. It's not to say that I don't care about the rest of the world, but
like
just
help, like they say, like in the planes, like help yourself before you help.
Absolutely.
The others around you. It's so true.
And it's easy to get caught up in being pessimistic about the state of the world and being like, oh my God, all the AI is going to come and take all the jobs. And, you know, it's easy to take a look at only the things that we're able to see and be like, oh, those things are not as good or different from what they used to be. Therefore, my logic believes me to think that we're on a downward path. But that's what happens when you're just paying attention to the things that other people are doing and you're not paying attention to, like, given the situation that we're in now, what is it that I want? Like, what is it that I'm hopeful for? And the hope isn't any specific outcome, but it's really just having that hope in your heart and letting that drive your day to day. And, you know, you follow that, and that's all.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Don't you think, like, back then, people were going through similar things that we're going through now, and to them it was like, oh my gosh, it's the end of the times, end of the world, and they made it through to where we are today. Yeah.
I mean, if something big enough is happening to where the end of the world is coming, is there really anything that any individual is able to do to stop that anyway?
Right.
And again, we can't even control how fast our hair grows, and we think we're going to be able to control the world.
People think they can control how fast their hair grows.
Right.
With, like, pills and medicines.
I was having a thought about that also, like, how much of what we see in, especially with, like, the prescription drug marketing and advertising, the way that we see it, like, how many of, like, the hunger that we feel or the pain that we feel or the sicknesses that we feel come as a result of someone telling us that there's a product out there that can fix this problem. Like, it's not a problem I was even aware of until someone told me that they had a solution for it.
That it was a problem. You're like, I thought I was fine.
Yeah, but turns out
until I saw a billboard of Urlacher getting hair implants or whatever.
Yeah. It's insane. I don't know. I think there's a lot less that we have to do in order to live life than we think we need to. I'm trying to be a proponent of what it is that we want. And I don't mean want as in, like, just sensory pleasure.
Right.
Right? That's old school. That's a low vibrational way of deciding what it is that you want out of life. I'm all about that high vibration stuff, baby.
Really want.
Anyway, I think that was a good conversation. That was a great first episode. Thank you very much for being my guest. I hope you will come back and we can make this a regular thing.
Yeah, hopefully I'm getting used to this.
Yeah, and we can talk about, like, there was a topic of that one Korean actress that committed suicide. And, you know, there are other things that we can talk about. But I just wanted to get this one in and get you comfortable in front of the camera. And we got to feed Margot now too.
Yes.
So
thank you.
Thank you very much for watching, guys. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode. Bye. Margot, go sit.